Hello and welcome back to Bannerlord and our assassination mission. Basically, this is going up against a massive Goliath of an opponent and attempting to defeat them. Now, bear in mind, I just want to ask you something. Do you want this series to end? Do you want this series to end right now, and do you want me to restart and try something a little bit different in the next playthrough? Would you like that? If you don't want that, then by all means let me know. But if you do, then also let me know, because I'm actually kind of, I would personally like to see this through to the end, because I personally feel like we could very much make this happen, but it really just depends on a number of different factors. Being able to take these guys prisoner, for example, is definitely going to be something that is going to be paramount to our success in this case. I've actually been doing a whole bunch of stuff. I have been fighting some people off screen because I realized that vassal battle after vassal battle is probably going to get a little bit repetitive, but that is indeed inherently the nature of Mount and Blade, because in Warband, that's exactly what we would do as well, but instead of vassal battles, in my case right here, I'd probably be doing sieges instead. And yeah, I would love to do more sieges, but obviously that's just not possible at this point. Anyway, to catch you up on what has been going on. Basically, I have been baiting the enemy to attack me. And how did I do that, you ask? Well, I just went to Praven. I just went to Praven, and I was just like, okay, I'm going to siege this. I am completely defenseless. Would you like to attack me? That's the kind of thing that has been going on here. And I have been very successful with this. Very successful indeed. I have literally been able to bait, I think like 4 or 5 different vassals to actually come out of the woodwork and attack me. And some of them actually had about 180 to 200 units each. And thankfully they don't come at the same time. You know, they're coming solo, so this is great because that means that I can quite easily deal with them not too badly. I'm gonna say that it's not that easy. I feel like I'm saying it like it's very simple to defeat these guys, but for the most part it's not, because then there's going to be some other guy that is really close, and you really have to be very careful about what you're doing and how you're doing things, because you can't use the speed up function, you know, anyhow. You know, you got to be a bit careful about that. Oh, it seems like we might be having some slight issues here. I'm actually kind of surprised. Okay, hello. Oh, I'll take out that. Oh wow. Okay, there's actually a. Okay, sure. Okay, apparently we just need to charge. Because we are having some issues. Yeah, we're having some issues with the villagers. That is the main issue here. The villagers decided that they would charge in, and that has kind of spoiled my strategy, unfortunately. But, well, I guess it's not too bad. Yeah, also to catch you up on various other events, Liena had another child. So we now have 4. We have 4 children. And we also were able to level up as well. So Barney leveled up. He now has, he's now level 15, I believe. And he now has another, should we say, learning point or focus point or whatever in polearms. I basically just want to level up my polearms as much as possible, because doing these field battles has leveled it up to 100. It is actually now 100, which is actually kind of interesting and pretty cool in my opinion. I quite like that. Anyway, that is indeed a victory for us. And you must be wondering, how am I able to defeat these guys so incredibly easily? Well, that's the thing. I wonder whether you just want to take a look at their recruits. This guy literally had, basically, I don't even know, but I think 77, yeah. It seems like he has 77 Imperial recruits, and you can kind of imagine that running around with a whole bunch of recruits in your army is probably not going to be the best idea, you know, probably not going to be the best. Anyway, there's another 80,000 gold for us, and bear in mind that defeating vassals that are relatively close to your level, in terms of army size and stuff like that, is really good for cash. I know that someone actually mentioned that, you know, asked basically how much how did I get so much cash? Well, if you go back a little bit, there's going to be a siege in the series where we defend our castle, and I gained literally like, I think it was like 780,000 from that particular siege defense. And yeah, pretty crazy, I know, pretty crazy, but that's how I got it. Anyway, I think I might take some of these berserkers and Ulfednars and stuff, and bear in mind that I actually did have 180 or so units before this fight, but of course, you know, you're going to have those various issues where, you know, you're going to have people die, and that's generally how things go. I really wanted to have a much better time against this fellow. I actually wanted to do much better, you know, in terms of my strategy and everything, but unfortunately the villagers just decided to charge in any old how, and that has caused me to now suffer a few too many casualties for my liking. Now, bear in mind that if you take a look at these unit compositions right here, I'm just going to pause the game real quick just so you can actually have a look. So this guy in particular, he's got 30 Batanian volunteers. They're basically just recruits. The Batanian Woodrunners, they are tier 2 units. They're not very good at all. Then he has 17 Sturgia peasants, and then he has 10 looters. So generally, this guy has... let me see here. Quick math. I don't know, like 70, 80 units that are kind of meh, right? So not very good. So 70 to 80 units. So technically he has about 130 or so that can actually do damage, which is absolutely fine. That's good, you know. It's still pretty good, you know, still pretty good army. Then you got this guy. This guy, on the other hand, he has 98 Imperial recruits. I'm speechless at how they are running around with these armies, but it's just, as I've said before, it is literally just numbers. When it comes to their victories, it is literally just numbers, and that is it. And I'm hoping that we'll be able to do something about that as I restore my forces and try and fight another one. Oh, now this is absolutely wonderful. I love these kinds of scenes. Just look at this. Do you see exactly what is going on here? That is insanity. Just a huge train of units right here. And most of them literally only have like one person in their army and everything. But I personally think that that is hilariously fun. Anyway, I actually did just recruit a party. I don't know whether you could have seen that, but Elise has actually joined the battle as her very own party, which is actually very cool. I have been using parties every so often just to kind of give us a little bit of a boost in some of the fights, because let's face it, sometimes you need a little bit of an extra kick to be able to beat these guys. So yeah, anyway, that's what I've been doing. And I'm very much hoping that our children might actually level up at some point. I think that, you know, it might actually make sense considering, but yeah. Anyway, this guy is, isn't this the fellow with 98 Imperial recruits or something like that? If it is, then he's going to be in a massive amount of trouble. And I would like to be able to eliminate a couple of their cavalry if I can. I've got to be a bit careful about... Oh, really? I was really hopeful that I'd be able to eliminate him. But no such luck. Oh well, never mind. Now, what I've also tried to do is I've tried to maximize the efficiency of my cavalry. And generally how I try to do that is by making it almost basically impossible for the cavalry to miss when it comes to running through enemy units, because you can see right here that they just ran through enemy units. It's kind of impossible for them to miss at this point. Ow, that actually hurt my horse quite a bit right there, but well, you know, what can you do? We're just gonna kind of I think we're gonna actually charge right now. I'm gonna put my archers on this hill right here because I personally feel like they are going to be extremely effective at the top here, and then we will see if I can maybe eliminate this guy. Ah, the tree stopped you, sir. That was not very good, was it? Oh well, never mind. I have a two-handed axe, and I will be using it to its best effect. I have actually used this really, really well in the past, and it's got a cleave effect. Yeah, you knew this. You knew this. Someone actually said to me in the comments, hey, you should probably use your axe. It's got a cleaving effect. And I'm just like, what? It has a cleaving effect? I knew that Bannerlord had that kind of thing in the game, but it kind of slipped my mind. Kind of slipped my mind a little bit. And it having a cleaving effect just makes this so much fun. Absolutely so much fun. I'm probably going to die as a result of me being a bit overzealous, shall we say? Or maybe not. Maybe not, as the case may be. Ah, there we go. Oh, no, he's trying things. He's trying, but no, we have absolutely run this guy down like nothing else. Or we could say like no one's business. You know, we could say that. I mean, it's such a thing that I never say, is it? I never say that. I never say that. Right? Right? You know. Anyway, as I hark back to the previous little thing that I asked you, would you like the series to continue? That's the question basically. Would you like the series to continue? Would you like to see the end? Would you like to see what happens to Mr. Barney, the beheader bear-tilled? Would you like to see what happens, or would you prefer to have a restart and you know, try something new? So that's basically what I'm asking, and I just wanted to reiterate that because I think I didn't actually explain it very well. Let's just say that I'm pretty awful at explaining stuff. Anyway, there you go. There's a nice victory for us, and I very much hope that we will be able to take this guy prisoner. If I'm not, then no, there we go. I can take him prisoner. Fantastic. And these guys are actually some of the larger vassals that I have seen. And as I say, I have already done quite a bit of damage to a variety of different clans. Haven't destroyed any clans just yet, which I got to say is a little bit disappointing. But, well, what can you do, you know? Sometimes you just can't do anything about it. So we're just going to try and get some more Imperial units because they're actually really good. I have found the Imperials to be basically pretty fantastic. They have been super, super powerful. And I have continued seeing a lot of people say to me, hey, Imperial units, they seem really good. And I'm talking probably most powerful in the game. And that is definitely something to be very proud of indeed. Obviously, the Imperial infantry are really good. The Imperial cavalry are really good, but the archers, maybe not so much. Not entirely sure about that, but I think that they are close, you know, close in power, in my opinion, at least. And yeah, I'm just going to wait here for some time, try and restore myself a little bit, and then we'll see what we can do about, well, hopefully eliminating some more. Alright, so we're actually in a battle with another vassal here. This guy was actually attempting to raid one of our villages, and, well, I wasn't too pleased about that, so I decided, hey, you know what, I'm gonna try and take him out. He did have more units than we did. We had 180, I believe, and he had 217. And luckily, once again, he was one of these guys with a massive amount of Imperial recruits. Amusingly enough, though, they're still pretty tough, even with a huge army of Imperial recruits. And I'm actually kind of surprised about that, to be honest, because I would have expected someone that literally is running around with basically just volunteers, the lightest of the light units, and is still able to put up a pretty decent fight. I mean, you can see here, look at that. I've lost 19 units in this fight, which I gotta say is very surprising considering I believe he had about 89 or something recruits, didn't he? Oh, that's kind of weird. I'm not entirely sure why it says 38. Because he had more than that. I don't know. Okay, that's a bit strange, but whatever the case, there is indeed a victory for us. Yeah, he had 200 and something, and oh no, never mind. This is just the combined numbers. I'm still getting used to these whole icons and stuff like that. Okay, so yeah, he had about 80. He had about 80 of those guys. So that's, I gotta say, pretty bad for him to have, right? But he's still able to do a massive amount of damage. That's something I definitely feel like the developers might want to look at. And I'm not complaining or anything like that, because I personally feel like all the factions actually seem pretty fun. But I think that maybe some of them could use a little tuning here or there, you know, because obviously we don't want to have a situation where one faction is just crazy good, and I'm talking about basically the only option that you have to take, because they're just so incredibly powerful that if you want to win, then it might very well be that you need to take them, which I don't think that anyone in a sandbox game should be forced to select anything in particular. I think that in general it should all be about player choice. Player choice is, in my opinion, one of the most important things in a sandbox game like Mount and Blade, and that's exactly the reason why we love it. We love it because we can do pretty much anything with your character. You can decide where you go. You can decide what you do. You can decide what kind of units you're going to use, what weapons you're going to use, and you can decide on your rise to power as well. You can decide where you want to be in 100 days, where you want to be in 200 days, and so on. And that really makes a huge difference to your overall enjoyment, at least to my enjoyment. Maybe it's the same for you. I'm not entirely sure. I can't speak for you, obviously. But I think that is indeed something to bear in mind. But anyway, this town has not had any sieges whatsoever since I have been off screen. And I'm probably sure that the reason for that is because it literally has 880 defenders and 336 wounded. So you can see here, basically every single one of our armies, or our generals' armies, are they've got a decent size of army, but the problem is they're just not able to keep those guys alive, or maybe not even able to level them up as much as you would want, and that is making things a little bit tricky, because while I would love to be able to call for an actual campaign, you can see here that if I were to click on Create Army here, basically no one is eligible to join me, and that's exactly the reason why I was actually utilizing our party screen a little bit, because I wanted to create a new party, and then I would have Lise be a new party, and then she would follow me around a little bit, and hopefully we could then give her the rescued prisoners from various fights and things like that. But sometimes that they didn't have any, and she would end up losing a bunch of her units, and then she would have to go back to the tavern to try and rectify things. So obviously that made things a little bit uncomfortable for us. But otherwise, what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and bait someone out here. I've got 164 units, and let's see if I can make it happen. Oh yes, I should probably also mention that I've done a little bit of research about what happens when you execute every single lord from a particular faction. And as far as I'm aware, and this has been corroborated by a number of different sources, including some of you in the comments, where if you actually have the ability to completely eliminate every single lord in a faction, you know what happens? Every single fief from that faction is now yours, or now becomes assimilated by your faction, whichever one that may be. In my case, it's Vlandir, of course. So that sounds good. That sounds really good. And if we can make it happen, then we will have conquered the entire map in one fell swoop. But obviously, one fell swoop means there needs to be many, many other swoops before that. In other words, I need to take all these guys prisoner many times over, try to execute them as best I can, and so on. So that's the kind of thing that we are attempting to do at the moment. I know a bunch of people said, hey, this is probably not the best idea to go for this, you know, maybe you got to restart because this is just a losing battle. But that's the thing. What about the Spartans? What about the Spartans from the 300? Did they give up? Well, maybe some, but the point is that they were facing 10,000 Persians, and maybe more, actually, maybe more than that. And they still tried, you know, they still tried to defend the pass, and that's the kind of thing that we're facing here. It's exactly the same thing, with the exception of the fact that those Spartans are much more skilled than I am. But the point is, you know, that's very reminiscent of what is currently going on here. We're fighting against an overwhelming opponent, and being able to defend against that opponent, while still being relatively functional as well, by being able to run around, being able to have food still, that really makes a massive difference, I think, at least. Maybe that's just me. But I personally feel like this is actually going to work. I personally feel like this is going to work, but maybe I just have a lot more optimism and maybe a lot more faith in Barney's abilities. Maybe I'm not entirely sure. I mean, you've seen him fight. You've seen him fight in the entirety of this series so far, and well, maybe you don't have any confidence in him. And that's absolutely fine. I mean, I generally didn't. I generally didn't, but I always kind of feel like Barney can turn it around. He can kind of flip a switch and basically be like, okay, let's do this, and then he does some crazy stuff, and he's able to do some really cool things. Oh yeah, by the way, this is a new companion. I actually completely forgot about this guy because I don't even know why I forgot about him, but apparently I forgot about him. I didn't mention him to you, but here he is, Voldrat. Voldrat Breakskull is his name. I found him in the town, obviously, the town's tavern, and yeah, he is pretty good. I wouldn't say that he is amazing, but he is pretty good at two-handed weapons, so I actually gave him an executioner's axe. I actually looted another one, amusingly enough. So yeah, so he's basically been with us for a while, and that's quite nice. Oh, and by the way, I think I can actually use a better horse now. Wait a minute. He can use a better horse. Never mind. It's actually him that can use the better horse. Yeah, of course, because Barney still can't use any of these. Oh, dear. Oh, well, never mind. Never mind. Okay, so we were able to take that guy prisoner, so I am going to be telling him that he has no more life. Goodbye. There we go. And I know that a bunch of people actually said in the comments that the clans, they infinitely respawn. Ooh, there's Regea. I'm actually going to just go back here real quick. I want to see what her army composition is like. Alright, so she's got 17 recruits, 36 mercenary cavalry. She's got Empire peasants, which are obviously going to be pretty easy for us to deal with, but she's got 10 legionaries, 9 elite cataphracts, another bunch of elites as well. So she's got some pretty decent units, and because she's running around, obviously, with 298, she's going to be, I'm going to say maybe impossible for us to defeat, but she is going to have to be defeated if we are going to execute every single one of them. Now, what I'm thinking about doing here is once we have eliminated enough, and Oros is actually someone that is on my list. This guy is actually kind of doable for me right now, because he doesn't have overwhelming amounts of units. He's got volunteers, as you could see. He's got peasants. He's got a whole bunch of lower tier units, and I might very well be able to deal with him. But his power level is just much higher than mine at this point in time, because I obviously cannot, rest up without being in the town, which obviously makes things a bit difficult for me. Yes, I am also going to be donating some troops to the garrison here. We're going to be donating the looters because I, of course, cannot level them up. I do not have the disciplinary ability to be able to do that. So that's absolutely fine there. And I suppose what we'll do is we will go and donate our prisoners to the dungeon. We will be taking a couple first, though. And yeah, so as I said, some people were actually saying that it's probably not going to be doable for us to do this because the clans apparently infinitely respawn and so on and so forth. And then when someone dies, when a parent dies in the clan, then the children take over. But that's the thing, I haven't seen that. I haven't seen that yet. So I'm not entirely sure if maybe it's just not happening for me, or whether it's just a case of maybe it's just not happened yet. But if it does happen at some point, then obviously that's going to be kind of harsh. But as I say, I might put a poll in a pinned comment down below, straw poll or something like that. And then we can get a pretty easy, kind of vote on the whole thing. And we'll see what happens. Because personally, I'd like to continue. But obviously, if the overwhelming majority wants to restart, then, well, I guess then I will just play off screen in my own time, and I will see how this game goes. But obviously, if you want to see it, then well, you're very welcome to join me. Anyway, Oros is probably going to go over here and do something annoying. He's kind of annoying. Let me just say that, because he's actually been running around with a massive army for the majority of the time that I've been off screen, and he has very much put his proverbial, I guess, thorn in my side for a very long period of time. Anyway, let's try and attack this guy. No, 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 no. See, now that's exactly what I mean. I do not want these automated orders, quote unquote, to come in and for them to then just yank me away from some place that I actually want to be at. For example, pursuing this guy. I definitely wanted to pursue this guy, but then all of a sudden a campaign is called, and then my character is automatically rerouted to go and meet that guy, which is absolutely fine normally. I wouldn't mind that normally, but it actually happened to me when I was off screen and I was being chased by Oros's army, and he had 760 units in his army. And yeah, I know, there's basically no way that I would be able to defeat that guy. Even with my full contingent of 188, I still wouldn't be able to do anything against the guy. So I obviously just had to wait it out. But the thing is that what happened was, when I was being chased, I got called to a campaign in the opposite direction. So what that meant was I was literally in a position where my automated character decided to run back into the army that I was trying to escape from. So yeah, I think that kind of automation needs to either be disabled or it needs to have some kind of option to turn it off. Because at this point, for me, I don't want to have a situation like that again where I'm in front of an amazingly powerful army, and then all of a sudden I'm called and then I run into them, because I obviously wouldn't be able to react that quickly. Because if I'm running away and I turn around, I might not have my mouse in the right position, or whatever the case may be. And you just don't really want to be, having to deal with that kind of stuff. So that's generally the reason why I would personally prefer it to not have that kind of thing happen. But maybe it's just me. Maybe I'm the only one that has had that kind of issue with the automation, and maybe it's actually something that doesn't bother a bunch of other people. It might just be literally me that is having some issues with it. But anyway, I'm gonna tell my forces to come up here, and I will try to distract a bunch of the enemy. Bear in mind that, of course, I don't want to get too close to the Imperials, because they are actually quite good at what they do, and I would like to try and stay alive as best as possible. There we go. Let's tell my infantry to charge in. I think we probably can now, and we'll tell our cavalry to charge as well. And these guys literally are going to... Wow, yeah, that's a lot of damage. Look at that. That is a lot of damage right there. And that's the kind of thing I was talking about. Being stopped by units that are using spears. They're very, very good at that. And, well, I guess the one thing that I can be thankful for is that we have our archers to back us up, because those archers are fantastic. Very, very much appreciate having those guys available. I had a battle earlier when I was playing off screen, because I played for about an hour and a half actually, because there was just so much to do, so many vassals to try and eliminate, a lot of recruiting to do, and all that stuff. But anyway, the point is that I was fighting, and I got up onto a hill, kind of similar to this hill right here, kind of like this, but not on this map. It was not on this map. And I was just thinking to myself, oh, okay, well, it would be great if the enemy charged at me, and they actually started moving closer, weirdly enough. Don't know why they would do that, but they apparently did. And then they got into a circle formation, because I was actually running around with my cavalry following me, and that actually makes a huge difference to what the AI is going to do. Because if you kind of intimidate them a little bit, if they see that you have a huge amount of cavalry, then they usually will put themselves into a circle formation, and then your crossbowmen or your archers or whoever is ranged is going to just tear them apart. And they really did. My archers got like 40 or so kills before the enemy decided to get into melee range with them, and then we just charged in from the back. and it was just an absolute bloodbath for them. Which is to be expected, obviously, it is to be expected. But of course we outnumbered that fellow by about 80 units or so. He only had about 100, so it was pretty easy for us to deal with. Alright, so that guy's gone. Let's take a couple of Sea Raiders, why not? And I think I can level up the Sea Raiders, can't I? Yeah, I can level up the Sea Raiders. I just can't level them up into Sturgian Soldiers, as you can see. I can level them up into Sea Raider Warriors, so that's pretty good. And I don't think I'm going to be taking... should I take some Vlandian... Yeah, why not? Why not? Let's just take some Vlandian crossbowmen and so on. The militia units actually as well. The militia units are actually surprisingly good. I'm actually very, well, weirded out by that because I wouldn't have expected it. Anyway, Executioner's Axe. I just picked up another one, and someone said that I should give this to Kiraslava, and I'm actually going to be doing that now. So there you go. She's actually got her very own wonderful Executioner's Axe. I personally love using two-handed weapons in this game. It's really not practical at all. I personally feel like it's probably one of the worst things you can do in terms of actually keeping your defense up. But it is so fun when you can actually use them in a situation where you have a bunch of units in front of you and they're not focusing on you, but they're focusing on your units, and you're capable of literally wading in there with a massive amount of damage being dealt. Oh yes, it is. It's just huge amount of fun. So, and that's the point. That's really the point about Mount and Blade, isn't it? You know, having a huge amount of fun is definitely the main goal, but the melee combat has definitely grown on me, because when I first started playing the multiplayer beta months and months ago, I was like, oh wow, the combat's really hard, you know? They've changed it quite considerably, but I can see what they're doing here, you know, because they've added weight to all of the attacks. They've made it so that you've got to be much more, shall we say, calculating about how you want to attack. You can't just spam attacks all the time. You've got to be a bit more calculated about that. But anyway, let's take a look at our kingdom here. Actually, you know what? I don't want to look at my kingdom. I want to look at their kingdom. So let me actually just take a look. All right. Oh yeah, I also want to take a look at the combat strength, because someone actually mentioned in the comments that it would be a good idea to show the combat strength after a whole bunch of executions, and I think that is definitely a good idea. As you can see, Mesui has not taken any casualties whatsoever apart from one. Not entirely sure where they are, because I would very much like to execute Mesui if at all possible, because she has been absolutely terrible for us most of the time. And I guess I'll just go to some of these castles and we'll see if I can maybe draw them out or something like that. And then obviously you have Regea here. Oh, this is actually kind of amusing. Oh, look at this. Oh, okay. So this actually helps us quite a bit, because you can actually see how many units she might actually have, you know, as allies. And yeah, I guess that's pretty good. But yeah, I've got a long way to go. So I guess what I'm going to ask is, it's going to be down below anyway. It's going to be in a poll. But basically what I'm going to say is there's going to be three options, probably. The first option is going to be restart the series, and you won't see this one ever again. That's basically, you know, how it will go. And I might show you the end if I continue to play off screen. And then the second option is going to be continue, obviously. Continue until the end. See what happens to Mr. Barney, you know. And, you know, that's probably my preference. And then the third one, which I don't mind either. I think the third one might be more agreeable to some of you. The third one is going to be, I will play off screen. I will try to execute as many vassals as possible. And if I can turn it around, then I will resume recording at that point. So there's also that. I don't know whether it's actually going to be three options, because it might be a little bit too convoluted then, and I want it to be quite straightforward. So we'll see what happens, but just go down below. If you want to have your say, then there's a link to a straw poll or some other, you know, some other poll down below, and you can see what's going on there, and you can see exactly what's happening. So you can see here that Vlandia literally has nothing, no strength whatsoever, but we have inflicted almost the same amount of casualties, as you can see. And the Empire still has 27,000 strength, which is to be expected. Absolutely to be expected, but I personally feel like we might very well be able to turn this around. I thank you very much for watching, and I will see you next time.